The signing of the Magna Carta on June 15, 1215 at Runnymede, a meadow by the River Thames, was an important event in the annals of Western history. It took place in Runnymede. Even though it might seem like a trivial historical aside in the 21st century, this event had a significant impact on Western political philosophy and was a foundational factor in the development of constitutional law and individual rights. To fully comprehend the significance of the Magna Carta, one must first get familiar with the social and political climate of England during the 13th century. King John ruled with an iron fist, demanding hefty taxes to support his military adventures and maintaining control over the judiciary in order to keep his grip on power. The suppression of dissent and the submission of feudal lords to his caprices and whims were both commonplace during his rule. This misuse of the royal prerogative resulted in widespread dissatisfaction, which ultimately culminated to outright rebellion. In May of 1215, rebel nobles took London in an effort to limit John's power and gain control of the city. They used the City of London as a negotiating chip and wanted a charter of liberties that would put limits on the power of the king. This pressure ultimately resulted in discussions, which culminated in the signing of the Magna Carta at Runnymede. Magna Carta, sometimes known as the Great Charter, was not even close to being a democratic constitution in the sense that we use the term today. It was a realistic response to the political issue at hand, with the primary emphasis being placed on the concerns of the barons. Nevertheless, it was revolutionary for its time since it presented the idea that the law should take precedence over the king. There were 63 clauses in the Magna Carta, and they dealt with a wide variety of subjects. Some of them dealt with feudal privileges and customs, therefore their appeal was limited to a specific audience. However, some had a much greater impact, as they touched upon various aspects of the concepts of justice and taxation. Clause 39 was one of the most important provisions of this document. It said that, "No free man shall be seized or imprisoned or stripped of his rights or possessions or outlawed or exiled, except by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land." This served as the basis for the legal idea of habeas corpus, as well as the concept of due process. Provision 12, another important provision, stipulated that no scutage or aid may be levied in our kingdom without its general consent, so setting the framework for the concept of taxation with representation. Clause 12 is one of the most prominent clauses. Despite the fact that he signed the Magna Carta, King John had no intention of following the terms of the document. Almost immediately, he filed a complaint with Pope Innocent III, who ruled that the document was invalid. This led to the beginning of the First Barons' War, which further weakened the stability of the realm. After John's death, the charter was reissued numerous times during the reign of John's son Henry III, who succeeded his father as king. Some clauses were taken out and others were added with each new printing, but the fundamental concepts stayed the same. The version that was issued in 1225 and became the official version was the one that was entered into the statute books in the 14th century. This version was issued in exchange for a grant of new taxes. The significance of the Magna Carta has developed and grown over the course of several centuries. In a sense that was never intended at the time, it has come to be seen as a document that symbolizes freedom and rights. It was a bulwark against absolute monarchy in England in the 17th century, when it was cited in the fights between Parliament and the Stuart rulers, and it was used in those struggles. The American revolutionaries of the 18th century were influenced by it, and they incorporated its concepts into the Constitution of the United States of America and the Bill of Rights. Despite the fact that it is mostly symbolic in modern times, the Magna Carta is nonetheless respected as a foundational document for freedom. It is the establishing of the notion that the law is superior to the sovereign, which laid the groundwork for constitutional monarchy and the rule of law that will be its permanent legacy. Not only was the signing of the Magna Carta at Runnymede an important event in history, but it was also a turning point. It resulted in a shift in the power balance, set the path for the development of constitutional law, and established a model for freedom and rights that is still relevant today. In its most fundamental sense, it was responsible for laying the foundations for the democratic societies in which we currently reside, and the legacy it left behind continues to define our understanding of justice, fairness, and freedom. In spite of the fact that this is only a superficial investigation into the subject, A more in-depth study might investigate the individual clauses of the Magna Carta, the several reissues and the significance of each one, and the various ways in which the Charter has been interpreted over the course of the centuries. In spite of this, it is abundantly obvious that the signing of the Magna Carta at Runnymede was a defining moment that has had and will continue to have a significant influence on our collective ideals of liberty and justice. This is true even when considering only this narrow scope.